Hello and welcome to another edition of Toys from the Attic. Sticking with the Venom Valentine's for this month, we're going to be taking a look at Toy Biz's Eddie Brock / Venom action figure. So without further ado, let's take a closer look at this guy. Eddie Brock was a journalist, and in one of his stories he revealed the identity of a serial killer, only to have the real killer caught and apprehended by Spider-Man. Thus, after accusing the wrong man, Brock lost his job and his life fell apart. Disgraced and suicidal, he went to a church seeking salvation, only to stumble upon the recently discarded symbiote from Spider-Man. With the symbiote feeling rejected by Peter Parker and Eddie Brock blaming Spider-Man for the collapse of his life, the two of them bonded together, forming the monstrous Venom, and vowed to seek vengeance against Spider-Man. Alright, so here we're taking a look at Spider-Man and Toy Biz's Eddie Brock Venom action figure. Now, when this Spider-Man cartoon show came out, they originally came out with one version of Venom, which he was okay. I mean, he had jaw-chomping action. When he squeezed his legs, his jaw would go up and down and look like he was actually biting. And he had better articulation than this particular Venom, but he was lacking the size and the ripped muscles that are kind of iconic with Venom. When you think of Venom, you think of someone who's supposed to be big and imposing, a real threat to Spider-Man. And that one was just lacking, and I never really picked it up. So I was really happy when they came out with this version of Venom for two reasons. Yeah, he definitely has that bulk and that size. I mean, you could definitely see all the sculpted detail on his muscles right there. His chest, he has a nice wide chest. His arms are rippling. He's just ready to rip Spider-Man's head open and eat his brain. Yeah. He has some articulation. His head can move side to side. His arms can move up and down. There's no elbow articulation, so that's a little bit of a bummer. But, you could overlook it. I mean, like I've said before, this was the early 90s Toy Biz line. We were happy to get what we can get. It's not like today's figures with loads of articulation. His legs can move up and down. He has a little bit of knee articulation. You can also see all the nice little veins that have been sculpted in there as well. Now, the other reason I really like this guy is because of his head, or I should say what's underneath his Venom head. You can probably notice that this head is grossly oversized, and that's because it's a soft rubber that you could just easily slide off and reveal Eddie Brock's head. And this is something that I really like, because a lot of later versions of Venom or Eddie Brock would have the symbiote half covering his face, and he'd be in anguish of it taking him over, or he'd just be enraged at Spider-Man and he'd be going crazy. And it's something I've never really liked. I don't really like it when it's half and half like that on some of the characters. It's one of the things I never really liked about the Bride of Venom figure either. If you're going to have Eddie Brock, I'd prefer it, well, like in the show, the symbiote Venom head would flip back and reveal Eddie Brock's head right there. So it was like that in the show, and it's just something that I preferred. I'd often play with this guy mostly just with the rubber head removed, and I didn't mind it just being Eddie Brock's head. I pretend this is when he's actually trying to become a good guy and be helping Spider-Man. They could have done the head sculpt many different ways to make it look a little bit better. They could have given him a hard plastic helmet that actually fits right over his head. You probably would have seen some of his neck. And the whole helmet wouldn't have covered it. Or they could have had his head actually slide down into his chest and have the Venom head pop on. Or they could have done what was horribly done with the Carnage action figure that was kind of the same way, and have the human head very, very tiny, almost like a pinhead, and the Carnage symbiote head just fit right on top of it. That was kind of a bummer. I would have picked that guy up too, but the Cletus Cassidy head just looked weird on that. It just looked grossly undersized, where this actually seems to fit with the whole body. Overall, in the entire Amazing Spider-Man toy line that was based off the cartoon show, this one is actually my favorite Venom. Now, I do like the original Venom, the talking Venom, because that one's closer to his original comic book depiction. This one's just my favorite out of that particular line from that cartoon show. However, next week we're actually going to be taking a look at what is considered my favorite Venom from the entire Toy Biz line. But you'll have to wait for that one next week. Anyways, this has been a look at Toy Biz's Eddie Brock Venom action figure. Rah. Once again, thank you for watching. If you enjoyed what you've seen today, please feel free to like, subscribe, or leave a comment below in the comment section. Any advice for the show will be greatly appreciated. Who knows, something you suggest may appear on the show.